Namaste nerds, this is Navinat. I hope you're ready to do some budget pub stomping. Today we're going to be talking about Storm Force of Nature. Now this is going to be a little bit outside the realm of my typical budget builds because, well, Storm Force of Nature is $70.19 listed right now. I don't expect it to stay that way. And when I started brewing the deck, it was not that way. So let me talk a little bit about why I decided to do a budget video with a commander that costs $70. So one, I just had this deck brewing competition, and a lot of the people that got a hold of me, asked questions, submitted deck lists. They are building and brewing decks for leagues and at their LGS and for competitions where the commander is not included as part of their build. And in fact, although that seems a little bit odd to me, and it's not exactly the way we normally build and brew, and not the way I normally bring decks from to you from the channel, it is actually the way that my LGS does it also. And in this particular case, as I was brewing the deck, I had no idea what the commander may cost. And also, there's going to be a lot of people out there who either have Storm or plan to purchase Storm. They're going to get their grubby paws on this probably scalped little piece of cardboard, and they're going to want to know how to break her without spending another $1 billion, right? They already spent their $1 billion on the secret lair, and congratulations to those of you who got one. And now they're going to want to probably maybe not spend $1 billion on the deck itself. First let's read the card and then talk about what she brings to the table and some of the build paths we could have done, and then why we which one we chose, and maybe something about why we did. So Storm Force of Nature is a 3/4 flying vigilant creature with one of these weird kind of keyword, not keyword abilities called Ceaseless Tempest. It says, whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. So that's got the potential to be all kinds of broken, right? And there's lots of different broken things you can do with it. It wouldn't be any stretch of the imagination at all to think you should make a Storm deck out of this. And I think that can make a lot of sense. That's a way you could build the deck. Another way that I have seen people try to build the deck that I think is really interesting and powerful is going to be with extra combat spells, because then you're really breaking it a couple different ways. You're getting Storm on your combat spells, and you're getting to go back to combat with Storm on each of these extra combats. So that can get out of hand really fast also. I've seen people try to build the deck in just kind of like a creature combo sort of a way, or I saw a guy do that, which is kind of like, a thing you could do. I believe it was a food chain. He was using food chain and some other, like bounce a creature and replay it with Allurin, and just to have an infinite Storm count. I don't know that that fully takes advantage of this commander, but that's a thing you could do. Another thing you could do is just play hard control and then just use like dedicated win cons. So play like a Teamer Good Stuff control kind of a shell, and then just kind of lean into Storm in a way that just lets you play a pretty condensed win package with just a couple or a few cards that essentially will act as one card win cons. And I would say that's kind of closer to the way I thought would be the best way to build the deck, and it was a way I was able to do it on a budget. Now the way I did this, because I wasn't sure what Storm was going to cost when she came out, I built it with the idea that maybe she'd cost $10, $11, $12, and maybe someday she will. And so I left about that amount on the budget. But now that she's $70, you see the overall price on the deck is $158, counting the $70 commander. So that means that you're going to be like $88 without, or I'm sorry, $88 without the commander. So if you already have the commander, this is going to be a way to build the deck on the cheap, or if you're playing in a meta where you're allowed to disclude, not include the commander cost in your $100 deck. Hell, you've even got a couple extra bucks where you can upgrade the mana base or something, although we did end up with a pretty good land base. So what did I decide to do with the deck? So we are going to be doing creature combos, but we're not going to be doing like Allurin, we're not going to be doing food chain kind of things. We've got the kind of classic red backup plan. It's often a plan B of Dualcaster Mage with Twin Flame. So that's in the deck. The Twin Flame isn't that dead in this deck, but the Dualcaster Mage also is just like a reasonable card on its own, and it's a nice, effective, commander agnostic A+B. But really what we're going to try to win with is Kiki-Jiki. And the way we're going to use Storm is we're going to turn a few of the cards in the deck into, well, 4 of the cards in the deck into 1-card win conditions. Now we're also going to be breaking cards like Eagle Eye Vision. We're going to be breaking cards like Impulse and Dig Through Time especially. Even the Thrill of Possibilities, because when you copy a spell, like when a spell is given Storm, it of course doesn't make you pay the cast cost of the spell again. So like with Thrill of Possibility, if you've got a Storm count of like 3, and then you attack with your commander, and then you cast Thrill of Possibilities, you're going to have to, as an additional cost, discard a card, and then draw 2 cards, but you're going to then draw 2 cards for every Storm copy. So maybe it ends up being like, discard a card, draw 8 cards, which is pretty good, right? So I have some of the old Storm standbys. I've got some like, High Tide and Frantic Search, what is this, Snap, etc. But then I've also got some of the ways that you can, well, the cards that would be broken, except that they're balanced by some extra cast cost, for instance, the Dig Through Time. So we've got some of that stuff where we only have to exile the cards 1 time. And if we have a Storm count of 3, then we're going to be able to cast Dig Through Time times 3, right? Well, times 4, I guess. So that's what else? So the other kind of like little details I think it'd be a good idea to explain or kind of tell you where I'm coming from and give you some ideas. I decided to put a bunch of these cards like Tinderwall, Wild Cantor, basically Strike It Rich, the Frantic Search, and the Snap type spells that are essentially going to allow you to up your Storm count, get an effect, but it's like refund the mana so you can continue to cast spells that are, of course we're doing rituals, but aside from rituals, well, let me give you a more concrete example. So let's say we've got our commander out, we're looking to go for the win, we need to get our Storm count up. Maybe on turn 4 we cast a Wild Cantor for 1 green mana. Or let's back that up a bit. Let's say, well, I guess it doesn't matter the order, but let's say we cast a Strike It Rich. We use the treasure from our 1 red mana that we cast Strike It Rich with to cast a Wild Cantor. Then we sacrifice the Wild Cantor and we cast a Llanowar Elves. And so now we've really only spent 1 mana, but we've got a Storm count of 3, which, by the way, is 2 more than we need to win the game with any of our, quote, 1-card win cons. The 1-card win cons in the deck are going to be Bring to Light, Eldritch Evolution, Neoform, and Court of Calling. The most mana effective is Neoform, and it's also slightly easier to tutor for than the others. So this did require a little bit of build around that wouldn't have been necessary if not for wanting to include Neoform. But it gave us another 1-card win condition and redundancy in this overall package. I had to kind of bend my brain a little bit to figure out how to use Bring to Light as a 1-card win con, but once you if you just think about it a little bit, you'll get it. It's not complicated. Just, I don't know, I think it was a nice little idea that I had. So, Neoform. Now, again, this is going to be the same thing with Eldritch Evolution or Court of Calling if you have enough mana, but the most mana effective one is Neoform. So let's say we bring our Storm count to 2. That's all you need. So you cast a Wild Cantor, you crack a Wild Cantor, you use the green mana from cracking the Wild Cantor to cast a Llanowar Elves. Your Storm count is now 2. You move to combat with Storm. Storm hits somebody, and then you cast a spell, and the spell you cast is going to be Neoform. Now, this is going to be in post-combat. This is going to be in main phase 2, so we can't do any kind of like Kiki-Jiki infinite combat stuff because we've already gone to combat. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Neoform, which says as an additional cost, there's that clause again. We've got a big thing we have to pay, but we get a big effect out of it. But when we're storming, we only have to pay the big cost part once. So in a sense, we kind of break the card. So the way we're breaking Neoform, or the way we're using Neoform, is with our Storm count of 2, at least 2, we're going to cast Neoform, and as an additional cost, we're going to sacrifice our commander. So we're sacrificing a 4-mana creature. Neoform says that you can search your library for a creature card with CMC 1 greater than the sacrificed creature's cast cost. So Storm's cast cost is 4, so this is going to get us a 5-drop. But if we have a Storm count of 2, then it's going to be copied twice, and we're not going to get a 5-drop. We're going to get 3 5-drops, and they don't go into our hand. They go directly into play. So we cast our Rite of Flame into Strike It Rich, or Strike It Rich into Rite of Flame, go to combat. Or we cast our Gitaxian Probe, free spell, or our Manamorphose into Gitaxian Probe, whatever. We've got a lot of free spells. We've even got we've got more than I thought we'd be able to fit in the deck, honestly. So we've got a lot of these cheap and free, Frantic Search. We go Manamorphose into Frantic Search. We go Gut Shot into Strike It Rich, leave a treasure in play, whatever. We've got a Storm count of 2. We go to combat. We hit somebody. We cast Neoform. We sacrifice our commander. That means we're going to be putting a total of 3 creatures with CMC exactly 5 into play. One of them is going to be this beastie here. This is probably the most expensive card in the deck, and it's one of the most critical. We absolutely need this. This is a big part of the strategy. Terror of the Peaks, Kiki-Jiki, and Zealous Conscripts. What do they have in common? They're all 5 mana, and they've got some synergy together in that if you have all 3 of these creatures in play at the same time, you win the game even if you don't have a combat phase left. So we've already gone to combat. We hit somebody with our commander. We cast the Neoform, sacrificing our commander. We get 2 additional copies. That means we get 3 5-drops into play. We're going to get Kiki-Jiki, Zealous Conscripts, and Terror of the Peaks. How does that work? So Kiki-Jiki has the ability tap. He's got haste. He's got the ability tap, and you can make a token that is a copy of target non-legendary creature that you control, and it has haste. And in the beginning of your end step, you sacrifice that token creature. The target is going to be Zealous Conscripts. Zealous Conscript says when it enters the battlefield, you gain control of target permanent, and you untap it. Gain control until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste. It doesn't say that you have to do this to your opponent's creature. So we're going to tap Kiki-Jiki, making a copy of Zealous Conscripts. When the Zealous Conscripts, the token, comes into play, it's going to give us a trigger that says gain control of target creature and untap that creature. It's actually target permanent, but you get the idea. The permanent that we're going to be gaining control of and untapping is Kiki-Jiki. So now we've got 2 Zealous Conscripts. And we've got an untapped Kiki-Jiki. We're going to tap the Kiki-Jiki again. We're going to make another copy of Zealous Conscripts. That copy will enter the battlefield, and we'll target Kiki-Jiki to untap it. So now we've got 3 Zealous Conscripts and an untapped Kiki-Jiki. And then we just rinse and repeat. We do that as many times as we want. But we can't go to combat now. It's already past our combat steps. So how do we win the game? Well, the 3rd creature that we got was Terror of the Peaks. So every single time one of these creatures is coming into play, you're able to do damage to any target. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to its power to any target. So that means every time we make a copy of Zealous Conscripts, we get to bolt something or someone. So we can just burn all of our opponents out on the spot. Now this pile also works with Eldritch Evolution. You can do the exact same thing. There's also lesser mana value piles. Let's say you've got a hard cast something. Maybe you can end step Court of Calling to find your Kiki-Jiki, and then you untap and you don't have a trillion mana, so you untap and you cast your Pestermite. So this is another way to go infinite with Kiki-Jiki. This doesn't rely on the commander, and you can do this pre-combat. Go to combat and kill everybody with your infinite army of Pestermites. So you've got Pestermite in hand, end step Court of Calling, find your Kiki-Jiki, put it in play, cast your Pestermite, tap the Kiki-Jiki to make a copy of Pestermite. The copy of Pestermite enters the battlefield. Pestermite says when it ETBs, you may tap or untap target permanent. You will untap the Kiki-Jiki, tap it again, so on and so forth. And there's another version of the Terror of the Peaks. This is only 3 mana. And I chose this for a number of reasons, but one really good reason is if we happen to already have Kiki-Jiki, now we can use Neoform on just a 2 mana creature. and we can get our Molten Gatekeeper and our Pestermite. So if we can get, or we can Eldritch Evolution, and we can get either of these, or rather both of these if we have a Storm Count. So if we have Kiki-Jiki, and we can get our Storm Count just up to 1, then we can cast Eldritch Evolution on whatever, a Mana Dork, and we get Molten Gatekeeper and Pestermite, and then we can do the same trick that we were doing with Terror of the Peaks and Zealous Conscripts, but we're going to be using Kiki-Jiki, Molten Gatekeeper, and Pestermite to effectively do the same thing. This is easier to put together in a commander agnostic way too, but also, like I said, if you do happen to find your Kiki-Jiki, you can put these two together a little easier than you can put the bigger ones together. So yeah, we're going to be using Eldritch Evolution, Neoform, and Court of Calling all to do kind of the same thing. Get your Storm Count up to 2, go to combat, hit somebody, and then you need to Court of Calling. If you're going to do this trick with Court of Calling, this is the hardest one. Well, it's the hardest one to use with the commander. It's actually maybe the best one to use outside of the commander, or it's very good because you can instep it, and that's big when you're trying to put together a combo and then win on your combat step. You can instep this, and you hold mana up. You're kind of a controlling deck anyway. Hold mana up. You've got a bunch of creatures. You tap them and cast Court of Calling. Find your things. The one that might be a little bit less intuitive is Bring to Light, but we're doing the same thing. We're on our main phase 1. We're gonna cast a Gut Shot, kill somebody's dork, paying 0 mana. That gives us a Storm of 1. Then we cast Manamorphose, and we get a Storm Count of 2. We'll have 2 mana from that, and then we will draw a card, and if you want, you can, cast whatever. It doesn't matter. We just need a Storm Count of 2. So we go Manamorphose into Thrill of Possibility. And then we discard a card, draw 2 cards. We go to our combat step. We have the Storm Count of 2. We whack somebody in the face with our Storm. Then we go to post-combat, main phase 2. We cast Neoform, or Eldritch Evolution. We sacrifice the commander. We find Kiki-Jiki, Zealous Conscripts, Terror of the Peaks, win the game. Or we can use Bring to Light. So we've got this Storm Count of 2. We went Rite of Flame into Strike It Rich, go to combat, hit somebody, Storm Count 2, cast Bring to Light in main phase 2. This says search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery card with converted mana cost that's less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast Bring to Light. Now, we're only a 3-color deck, but we do have ways to even Bring to Light for Kiki-Jiki. This is gonna require us to use cards like Wild Cantor. So this is another reason we've got another good use for Wild Cantor, another little layer of the strategy, because we can use that to crack for black mana. You can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any color. So when we're casting Bring to Light, we can use this to make black mana. We can tap Alana or Elf for green. We can tap a Birds of Paradise for white. Then we've got our red and then blue, which are just in the deck. So we've got 5. We can pretty easily, with our Manamorphose, Strike It Rich, Wild Cantor, our lands, our Felwar Stone, we can pretty easily come up with 5 colors. And even most of the time we don't need to come up with 5 colors, but let's say we do. It's not that hard to do. So we Bring to Light using 5 different colors of mana, and that allows us to search for 3 creatures because we're getting 3 copies of it. Now, this can be 3 spells. It doesn't have to be 3 creatures, and that actually comes up and is kind of key, but it's a little bit hard to explain. So what we could do, we've got Storm of 2. We cast Bring to Light. We are going to say, if we have 5 mana, even if we don't have 5 colors of mana, that's where the Bring to Light gets a little bit tricky, but if you think it through, you can get there. So you might go with let's say you can only muster a Bring to Light with 3 different mana. I mean, you've got Teamer colors in the deck, so that's not going to be a problem. But you tap a blue, a green, a red, and 2 colorless. Cast your Bring to Light, and you're like, well, shit, I've got my Storm Count, but I don't have 5 colors of mana, so I can't find my Kiki-Jiki. That's not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to search for these 3 creatures, or these 3 spells. Bring to Light says that you can, it doesn't have to be a creature. Search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery card with mana cost greater than or equal to the number of colors of mana you spent to cast it. So if we just have 3 colors of mana, which we will have, if we got our commander out, we must have, pretty much. We cast the Bring to Light with 2 copies. 1 copy can find Eldritch Evolution, 1 copy can find Neoform, and 1 copy can find either Pestermite or Molten Gatekeeper. So we've got 3 different colors of mana. We can find Molten Gatekeeper, Pestermite, and Eldritch Evolution. Eldritch Evolution sacrifices a dork, and Eldritch Evolution sacrifices our commander, so we just need 3. If we can get to 3, we're there, no problem. So we have 3 different colors of mana. We have a storm count of 2, so we get 3 copies of Bring to Light. Bring to Light can get us, in this case, since we only spent 3 colors of mana, it can get us CMC 3 or less spells. We're going to get Molten Gatekeeper, Pestermite, and either Neoform or Eldritch Evolution. Does that make sense? So we're going to use Eldritch Evolution and sacrifice our commander, or we're going to use Neoform and sacrifice our commander. So even though we've only got 3 different colors of mana, and we can only cast, because of that, spells that have a CMC of 3 or less, we can get 2 of our 3 combo pieces directly, Molten Gatekeeper and Pestermite, for instance, and then we can use either Eldritch Evolution or Neoform that we're getting off of one of our copies of Bring to Light to sacrifice our commander and find Kiki-Jiki. I hope that's not too complicated. I bet you if you just read the card, think it out. So we have a storm count of 2. It should be pretty simple to see how Eldritch Evolution and Neoform and Court of Calling work. We're just going to get the 3 creatures that we need. But if we have Bring to Light and we have 5 different colors of mana, we can do the exact same thing. No fuss, no muss, we just get Kiki-Jiki, Terror of the Peaks, and Zealous Conscripts. But maybe we don't have 5 colors of mana, maybe we only have 3 colors of mana. No fear, no worries. At 3, we can use our 3 copies of Bring to Light to find and cast Molten Gatekeeper, Pestermite, and then either Eldritch Evolution or Neoform, sacrificing our commander or whatever creature. If it's Neoform, usually it'll be our commander. Sacrifice our commander, so the free cast we're getting off of Bring to Light is going to be the Neoform, and then the Neoform is going to sacrifice the Storm, and that's going to get us to our 5 mana Kiki-Jiki. Even though we didn't have 5 different colors of mana to put into Bring to Light, we still have what we need to turn Bring to Light into a 1-card win condition. So if you've got 5 colors of mana, just do the original line. If you don't have 5 colors of mana, you'll have 3. Use those 3. Cast your Bring to Light. The 3 copies are going to get and cast Molten Gatekeeper, Pestermite, and Neoform, or Molten Gatekeeper, Pestermite, and Eldritch Evolution. The Eldritch Evolution or Neoform sacrifices a creature, oftentimes Storm, and then that puts Kiki-Jiki into play. So that means that we've got all of those as 1-card win conditions with a little bit of setup. What else? Well, we've got all kinds of interaction, and we've got interaction that we can use in pretty fun ways. Like we can get our storm count up pretty high, and then go to combat and cast a lightning bolt with a storm count of 4 and just board wipe, just burn everybody's creatures out. Or sometimes we've got a storm count of 4, but we haven't exactly found what we're looking for yet, and we can go to combat, attack, hit somebody with our commander, then cast Thrill of Possibilities with a storm of 4. Then we discard 1 card and we draw 10 cards, which is going to be pretty hard to lose after that. Planar Genesis is kind of an upgraded impulse if you're playing in these colors. So this is another one that's pretty good to copy 3, 4, 5 times. Dig Through Time is another one that's really good to copy 3, 4, 5 times. All of the you can do like these even these smaller draw spells like what are the smaller draw spells? We're playing Impulse, and what else? Even a Manamorphose. So main phase 2, we've got a storm count of 3. We cast Manamorphose, we get 3 extra copies of it, so that's going to give us 8 mana and 4 cards, which a lot of times is going to put us where we need to be. Frantic Search, getting like 4 copies of Frantic Search is nasty. That's going to be like a super ritual with super card, like you get all kinds of cards and ritual. So most of those are going to put us in a pretty good spot to win the game. Runaway Together, I think, is pretty sweet. It doesn't take very much to turn it into kind of like a build your own Cyclonic Rift. You have Storm Count 3, now you're bouncing 6 things. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of the deck. We've got tutors that are really nice when you copy them, right? So we don't have everything we need, but we go to combat with our commander, and we have a storm count of 2. We solve the equation, and then we find the 3 cards we need to make sure that we can get to our next turn and then win on our next turn. I want to see how we're doing on time and see if we've got time for gold fishing. Maybe. Okay, cool. I thought I was doing worse than that. Oh, we've got a really nice mana base too. We're a 3-color deck, so we had to spend a little bit of money on it. But take a look at the mana base. I'm pretty happy with it at $8.87 or whatever. So let's go to the play test mode. Let's see what we've got here. We don't have any ramp, but we have like everything else that we need. This is really close. Like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if you should keep this or not. In the first 3 draws, so by the first draw for turn, and then draw for second turn, yeah, I guess the first 2 draws we'd really need to find ramp to be exactly where we want to be. Maybe we wouldn't keep this on. This is tough because we've got the win, we've got interaction, we've got the lands and all of our colors. Let's just see how this goes. I mean, if you felt like you had to go first and win fast, you probably would pitch this, but you could get lucky. So let's draw for turn. That's a pretty good little payoff too. We really just need ramp. That's what we're hurting for. We'll play a land. We'll go to our next turn. If we got it. Never punished. Always go greedy. All right, and then that's going to allow us to hold up our Rapid Hybridization, Alchemist Retrieval, and Gut Shot. So we've got a bounce spell, we've got a kill spell, and then a blow up a dork spell. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not too bad. And we go to our 3rd turn, and we're going to cast our Storm Gal. And then we're going to go to our turn 4. And this is usually where we're looking to try to win the game or do something ridiculously busted. So on this turn now, going into turn 4, we're going to use this to kill somebody's dork, storm count 1. And then we're going to tap this to use this to blow up somebody's commander, give them a nice 3/3 instead, storm 2. We're going to go to combat, we're going to whack somebody with storm. Now we're going to go into our post-combat main phase. We're going to, well, I don't know if that'll tap for blue. We'll tap that for blue, that for green, and we will cast Neoform, sacrificing our commander. And we're going to get Neoform and 2 extra copies of Neoform. So that's going to give us 3 creatures that all have CMC 5 exactly. And those are going to be, what is this? Cancel that. That is going to be Terror of the Peaks and Kiki Jiki. And is it Zealous Conscripts? Is it Conscripts? I was going to put Jealous. That's not right. Zealous Conscripts. Yep. I can never remember which one is the 5 mana one. Okay, so this, and this. We're going to tap the Kiki Jiki to make a copy of Zealous Conscripts. That copy is going to come into play and untap this. And that copy coming into play is going to trigger Terror of the Peaks, and we're going to burn somebody or something for 3. Probably wipe the board first and then start going face. And we're just going to continue doing this. Tap this, make a copy of this. It comes into play, burns somebody and untaps this. And over, and over, and over. Maybe we've got time for one more. Oh, also, if we didn't have Neoform there, maybe the thing we would have done, we would have, if we didn't have Neoform, but we did have this Eagle Eye Vision thing, we still would have been in pretty good shape. We cast our 2 spells, but let's say in this alternate reality, we have to pay 2 to bounce something with this when it's not, okay, maybe we wouldn't cast that. Okay, so we'd go to combat with our storm count of 2, and then we're going to cast Eagle Vision, which is a draw 3 cards for 2 mana, with a storm of 2. Means that we're going to get 3 copies of draw 3, which means we're going to draw 9 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's busted, right? So even when it misses, it still kind of hits, right? Let's go to another example. Got a little bit lucky finding our ramp. Yeah, this is pretty good. This is real good. That sucks. Yeah, we need Cinderglade enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Bummer. Well, that blows. I guess draw for turn. How do we want to do this? This would be tough. I think you just probably take your lumps and play that tapped. Go to your next turn. We go like this. Like this. Oh, that's Utopia Sprawl. That has to go on this. Well, this is getting shittier by the minute. That's alright. This would not be that bad. And then we have to make sure we're going to be able to cast the right number of spells. So maybe we just hold up our interaction. Maybe we go for... Yeah, let's do this. So in step, we're going to cast Opt. And look at a card. And we'll put that on the bottom. And draw. Then we go to our next turn. We're on turn 3. So we go... Thran Dynamo, 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Cast our Storm. Go to our next turn. Alright, I think we're there. We need 2 spells before we can go off. Oh shit, maybe we're not there. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Is what we need here. Nope. Alright, so then we get into kind of sketch. I mean, but we're loaded up on interaction. We're in a real... I would feel totally happy with this spot if we're playing in a real game. It doesn't make for the most impressive gold fishing, but I think we'd be in a real good... I'd feel confident. I'd feel very comfortable here. But now the decision we'd have to make is, do we want to start looking for like free spells, or do we want to save the Preordain, hoping to top deck some mana? I'm not sure what the right answer is. I think that's going to take some playing. But since we can hold this up for negate or mana leak anyway, I think let's just do this. So we scry 2, 1, 2. We're going to bottom this. And I think we top this. And then we draw a card. And then we go to our next turn. Maybe we had to use a mana leak. It's still early game, so that probably just stops somebody from winning. And now we're going to go to, I think, so this is turn 5. And I think this is where we win the game. So we're going to tap a, how do we want to do this? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. 6 mana. Okay, so let's do this. We'll go... red mana for a Rite of Flame. So we've got 2 floating and 1 storm. And we'll cast this rock. So now our storm is 2. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. And we'll save the Strike It Rich in case we have to go off on another turn. But here, well, okay. Or if we played the Strike It Rich... No, that's right. So this is where we're at. We've got a storm count of 2. We're going to combat. Assuming we hit somebody, if we get messed with, then we're going to have to interact, right? If somebody tries to whack our storm, we can either use negate, or hopefully if they're tapped low, which it's, still relatively early, good chance they are going to be tapped low, we can cast divert and change the target. So it's like a 1 mana misdirection kind of. So they try to, murder our dude, and we're like, how about you murder your own dude instead? And then we'd have to wait leave our negate up, go back to our turn and try to win again. But let's just say everything went okay, nobody tried to mess with us. Then we cast our 1, we tap our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana with black, red, green, white, and blue. So we've got all 5 colors here. So we could use our, well, assuming somebody, we could get there, because this will make whatever color. This will make the colors our opponents have, and this will make any color. So it's going to be hard for us to not get to 5 mana. But let's just say for the sake of argument that we can't get 5 different colors of mana with our Bring to Light. We'll just cast it for whatever, 3. I mean, we're obviously going to be able to make more than 3 colors of mana. In fact, with this situation, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this will make any color. This will make any color. So this can be our black, this can be our white, blue, red, and green. So we absolutely can cast this with mana, 5 different colors of mana, and get that same Kiki-Jiki, Zealous Conscripts, and Terror of the Peaks, and win that way. But just hypothetically, if we didn't have this setup, if we didn't have the 5 colors of mana, and we had to cast this for 3 different colors of mana, if we just had Temur mana, the way we're going to do this is we're going to find... This is going to find, in that case, it would only find CMC 3 or less spells. And the CMC or 3 less spells we're going to find in this situation, it's going to be Pestermite. And that goes directly into play. And the next one is going to be Molten Gatekeeper. Also goes to the battlefield. And then the 3rd copy and final copy of a 3 mana or less spell is going to be Neoform. And the Neoform is going to be cast, sacrificing Storm, which is going to let us search our library for a creature card with converted mana cost exactly 5. If we'd already used our Neoform and it got stopped, we would just get Eldritch Evolution. That's only 3, so we can do that with just Temur mana. But in this, it doesn't matter. Either way, we're going to get Kiki-Jiki to the battlefield, and now we've assembled this combo. Molten Gatekeeper just says, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we're going to tap Kiki-Jiki to copy Pestermite. The copy of Pestermite ETBs, and when it does, it untaps target permanent, which is going to be our Kiki-Jiki. But since a Pestermite, which is a creature, entered the battlefield, Molten Gatekeeper pings everybody for 1. Then we're going to tap the Kiki-Jiki to make another copy of Pestermite, and when that copy comes into play, it's going to ping everybody for 1 and untap our Kiki-Jiki. And over, and over, and over. And so, yeah, that's more or less how the deck is built to run. There's other tricks, like there's things you can do that we didn't get to that I think are interesting and cool, like, I don't have a storm count of 4 and then cast a Haro sacrificing 1 land, but putting like all of your basics into play. That's pretty cool. So this is the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some ideas about brewing your own storm. And I gotta say, I love the deck, and I think it's good. There's been some talk on the Discord about whether it's too big of a bullseye on its target, or nope, that's not right. Whether it's going to be too much of a target, and whether basically the delta between how powerful the card actually is and how big a threat it seems to be is so out of whack that it's going to cause us too many problems, like everybody's going to be gunning for us. But I don't know. Like, I don't think so. It's not particularly squishy. It's a 3/4. We do have control elements in the deck, so we're not particularly helpless when it comes to defending our commander. And the deck is not particularly useless without our commander. We can still, put together a creature combo. We've got lots of tutors for creatures, and we've got lots of creature combos with redundancy. We've got backups. So we can go in a commander agnostic way. We can protect our commander, and our commander's not particularly squishy. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would build Storm, and this is the way I would build it. There's cool ways to build it. I wouldn't mind building it another way, like going the turns route. I think that looks really fun, or the storm route. That looks really cool too. But this is This is the way I went. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, guys, word to your mothers, your brothers, your fathers, and your daughters. East side, west side, north and south side, until the day that you and everybody you love dies. That's not a threat. That's a fucking promise. Peace be with you, and also with you, and may the force be with you, and also with you, and you not you, and you know who you are. And word to your... No, I already did that one. Namaste, nerds.